Hi,
I
we are back. And what we wanted to share with you today is calorie density. It's something we've touched on before, but there's a short clip from Chef AJ that we really like, where she's talking about calorie density and why we're so drawn to these calorie dense foods, which is the fast foods.
Yeah, food's high in oil, salt, and sugar.
Right, refined foods really pump the calories up in terms of calories per pound. So we'll watch AJ, Chef AJ to begin with, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more. We'll be back in just a flash.
Let me explain why people don't like vegetables. And it's not because they taste good. People always think it's because of taste. But what people have to understand is that anytime you have a pleasurable experience, like eating food or having sex, a little bit of dopamine is released in the brain. This is a neurotransmitter that's released whenever we have a pleasurable experience. It's so our ancestors knew we were going in the right direction. If we had poisonous food, we wouldn't get the dopamine. Sweet berries, ooh, this is good. Let's keep doing this behavior. Well, the more concentrated the calories, the more dopamine is released. Now, realize that in nature, food is of a very moderate caloric density. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 calories per pound. The only whole foods in nature that have a higher caloric density, nuts, seeds, and avocados, for example, these were not foods that our ancestors were getting into all the time. So we evolved at an average caloric density of about 700 calories per pound. Now, remember, the more calorically concentrated the food, the more dopamine is released. Well, processed food has a very high caloric density. All oil, for example, 4,000 calories per pound, which is in the food supply of every restaurant meal and pretty much every processed food. Flours and sugars, 1,500 to 1,800 calories per pound. So if you're used to eating a lot of oils and processed food and restaurant food and even animal products, which are higher in caloric density than plant foods, on average 1,000 calories per pound, you're used to getting a lot of dopamine. So if I tell you, okay, stop eating that peanut butter, which is 3,000 calories a pound, and the chocolate, which is 2,500 calories a pound, you need some steamed kale for 100 calories per pound, you're going to balk because if you were raised eating this way, like Dr. Goldhammer's son, you would get plenty of pleasure and enjoyment from your steamed Brussels sprouts. But that is part of the problem. And so the thing is what I would say to people is, even before you start withdrawing from some of these toxic foods, just put on your big boy, big girl pants and just start eating some of these other foods in addition. Like I tell people, I don't care if you go to Krispy Kreme and McDonald's all day, just eat your pound of kale for breakfast. Just get those greens, by any greens necessary in. But it is hard because what you eat today, you crave tomorrow. And so when you're away from these addictive foods, you find just as much pleasure from the simpler, more calorically dilute foods, but not as long as you're eating those other foods. It's sort of like, if you go to a rock concert, if you're a sound engineer at a rock concert and you like that kind of music, you're not going to enjoy Brahms' Lullaby. It's just because it's the overstimulation of dopamine that's caused by eating these foods that are high in caloric density and sugar, fat, and salt. But you're right, vegetables are really the answer. I love how Dr. Furman says, if you don't love vegetables, you better live close to a hospital, because without vegetables, that's the only thing that diets agree on. If you look at every, except for maybe a carnivore diet where they're literally just eating meat, every single dietary style from Dr. Rolls to Weight Watchers, they all promote eating vegetables, especially greens. It's pretty much the only thing the diet wars can agree on. So get those greens in. If you have to do smoothies at first, I don't care, but you've got to eat more vegetables. That really is the secret, I think, to long-term health, prevention of diseases like Alzheimer's, finding your ideal body weight. Every single meal, vegetables, half the plate.
I love how Chef AJ is so clear and quick and delivers a lot of information in a very short time.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, very good. One thing I notice about our eating is that it gets better and better. We have eliminated oil, salt, and sugar. And we just keep saying to one another, that was so delicious. And we eat these low calorie density, very high nutrient foods. We have greens 3 times a day. We eat totally SOS free, salt, oil, and sugar. Lots and lots of veggies, lentils, beans, grain, And we do a few nuts and seeds, either in the form of nuts for breakfast. I usually have about 4 nuts. And then we'll use one of our nut dressings for lunch. If I have, now I'm making a shift. If I have the nut dressing for dinner, I don't have half an avocado, but I have one or the other. So I get these more oil-rich foods as part of what we do in our daily eating. And by oil-rich, I mean nuts and avocados have some oil in them as part of their whole food composition.
So here's the thing about the whole food versus the free oils, the fats we get that have been processed out.
They come in a bottle.
Yeah, so the oil's in a bottle or the coconut oil in a jar. When we have those foods, like Chef AJ said, that's like 4,000 calories per pound.
That is so amazing. 4,000 when you begin to look at what it contains.
Yeah, and of course we don't drink the bottle of olive oil, but there's two things going on there. One is that high calorie density. The other is that it's not in the whole food form anymore. So if you tried to get a tablespoon of olive oil by eating olives, I think I looked it up, I think you'd have to eat something like 12 or 16 olives.
That's interesting.
After I had 12 or 16 olives, I'd be done with olives.
Yeah, for sure.
For quite a while. But here's the other thing about it, is that the oil that's in the olives, it takes the body a lot longer to release the oil from the olives to get it in our bloodstream. So the calories that are in it don't peak, don't spike the blood, the calories in the blood. And that's what Chef AJ was talking about, is those peaks of calories in the blood, in the taste buds, that stimulate the dopamine. And then that has us, when we're looking for food to change a mood or something, that's what has us remembering, oh yeah, it felt so good to have those French fries or have that chocolate malt or whatever. I'm thinking back a long time ago.
Or potato chips.
Potato chips, that's more recent, right? And so that memory just isn't there in the same way.
Yeah, that dopamine hit that those foods provide, it vanishes in time.
Yeah. So that's the other thing that you might keep in mind too, is that it's not just calorie density, it's also the whole food form that keeps it from spiking the blood and creating that dopamine hit. And I think that's part of the reason that Connie says more and more we're actually enjoying our food more, because we're not looking for a higher dopamine hit. And so we just taste the flavor of the food.
Yeah, I think you've hit it. We taste the flavor of the food, and the body registers that it really connects with its goodness. We're giving it the nutrients that it thrives on.
Yeah, so I'll just point out the other aspect of our program is that it's the first part is really understanding foods, the value of food, and how to eat the food the body was designed to live on, to really regenerate if there is an imbalance, and to thrive when it has a strong foundation of health.
And I think a very important part of that, I know you're not finished, is it's what the body uses to heal itself at a very high level. So as we eat more high nutrient dense whole plant foods, the body just can do its function so well.
So it's really important to know how the body works and what it thrives with in order to make good decisions, to help to restore balance if there is a health condition. The other part of our program is understanding the nature of mind and how life works, because we find the majority of the time that our clients are falling off the wagon is because they're reaching for whatever's in the house, ice cream, potato chips, whatever, when they're feeling disturbed inside, when there's some stress and anxiety going on, And they remember, their brain remembers, oh yeah, remember how good this feels? We can get you out of this feeling if you just have that bowl of ice cream.
Yeah.
So by understanding more about the nature of the mind and how life works, we can start uncoupling that connection between food and stress, because we start to handle our stress and anxiety. We start handling our circumstances in life. We start relating to life in a more stable, secure way.
Yeah, that's really true. So connect with us in the comments below if you want to know more. We're happy to do a free session with you and show you the power you have within of a deeper understanding of your own mind and how life works. Recipe. So I want to show you how beautiful these oatmeal raisin applesauce cookies are. And we're going to give you this recipe. They're SOS free, no salt, no oil, no sugar, and they are amazing. I had a green smoothie this morning and 2 of those. It was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a lot of applesauce because we have a friend with an organic orchard and we just bought, I don't know, 40 pounds or something. So we've got a lot of apples. Applesauce is a good way to use them. So enjoy, everybody. And hope to see you next week.